Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to try my first tutorial. Tutorials is really what I kind of want to be doing, and I don't know. I haven't had time. I haven't had the camera set up. I haven't had the know-how how to edit videos. So it's definitely something I'm working on. Today what I'm going to be making is one of these little mini traveler's notebooks. Now this one I made to send as a goodie in one of my swaps. So this is going to be above and beyond the requirements, but I never do a swap and don't send something extra. And I really like making these. Yesterday was super rainy and depressing here in Atlanta, and it finally got cold and all the leaves are blowing off the trees. And I know seasons need to change. It would be boring if they didn't. But it's also just kind of depressing, you know, going from our nice warm weather into fall. But today it's not going to rain, and so I'm going to feel much better. But when I sat down at my craft desk yesterday, I started to work on my swaps, and I just didn't have the mojo. So what I do when I don't have crafty mojo is I can put these together. And they're just good gifts to have. I made one for my best friend last year, and she uses it to like keep track of presents she buys. So she the next year she goes and looks, okay, well, this is how much I spent on this person. This is what I got them, so that, you know, for all your niece, nephews, cousins, stuff like that, so you don't lose track. But she definitely keeps this as her little Christmas planner. So basically what it is, it's a little traveler's notebook, and I just did 3 notebooks, the ones from the Dollar Tree, a folder, which I forgot to round the corners on this one. I will not do that, and the one we make together, and another little notebook. I haven't made one of these in a while, so I had to kind of get back into the swing of things. So if you want to learn how to make these, I'm going to make a snow and cocoa one with y'all. So if you want to learn how to make these, just stay tuned and we will make it together. Alright guys, so basically what we are going to need for this, I'm trying to make sure I'm in frame. So if the camera is unstable just for a second, you're going to see like my desk mess. I'm just using my tabletop. I know it's dirty and it's cut, and that's what it's for, to protect my table. So you'll just see all my glue and Mod Podge and stuff that's stuck on there, but that's okay. So I've already cut my paper down to size off of camera. I will go through the measurements in just a moment, but I use a corner chomper. Oh, this is my broken one. So I use a corner chomper, a We Are Memories corner chomper, the 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch one. I have this, what is this thing called? I don't know, but it's the other thing that punches holes and sets, what do you call these? Eyelets. So it's like an eyelet setter and a hole punch. I'm sure people know what that is. I forget everything as soon as I get on camera. I use a ruler and a craft knife, a nice metal ruler with a craft knife. You're going to need laminating sheets. Now you can just use the standard size. I do also use the 8.5 by 11, the letter size, but I don't have a package of those in the package. I buy them in bulk. But I also use these for the folders because I think it's just easier, and we'll get to that. You need a 3-pack of these mini composition books from the Dollar Tree. Now my measurements are from the Dollar Tree. You're going to want to measure, if you use the Walmart ones, you totally can. They have more paper in them. You can use those, but you want to be careful on your measurements. And then you're going to need a paper trimmer, a scoreboard, scissors, and then I use the big chomper, the crocodile. That's what that's called. Crocodile. Does this say what this is? I don't know. You'll find it on Amazon, I'm sure. If I can find it, I'll link it. And let's just go ahead and get started with what we need. I've already trimmed my paper, so I'm going to put that away. I don't need that anymore. Let's get into the sizes. If you hear my cat in the background, sorry. She's eating food. Hiding from the kitten. So I put it in here somewhere. Okay, so personal size traveler's notebook with no straps. Now for the cover, you're going to need 2 sheets because this Snow and Cocoa is not double-sided. So for my cover, I put 2 pieces, and you're going to want to keep in mind the paper orientation. So on the, what size is this? 5 1/8 is going this way. So you just want to keep in mind your paper orientation so it's not sideways or whatever. And then it is 8 1/4 width. Now if you have double-sided paper, you could probably get away with just using 1 sheet, but I think it makes it way sturdier. So I'm just going to back these pieces of paper together. You're going to need, for the folder, 1 7 by 7 piece of paper, square, and then for the notebook cover, you need 3. Now these are, again, are the measurements for the Dollar Tree size. So it's 4.5 inches, the height. So keep in mind your paper orientation again, times 6 3/4. And I usually add like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch to that, because you can always trim it down, but you can't add to it, if that makes sense. And once I start gluing them down, I will show you what I mean. So that's what we're going to need. Now the first thing I'm going to do, also you'll need adhesive. I forgot to mention adhesive. So you can use Fabri-Tac for this. Sometimes I use Fabri-Tac in a brayer, but I'm just going to go ahead and use my ATG gun and hope that it doesn't run out on me on this project, because it's super annoying. I have found that since I switched to this backing, this like brown backing, that I have a really hard time loading my gun. As you can see, mine is broken off and I have to hold it together with tape. I mean, it still functions, but I have a super hard time loading it, and I dropped it, and I wish they would go back to the white backing. I hate these, and it makes me not want to use this thing, but it was expensive, so I use it. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a moment. I'm just going to put this away until we figure out, and hopefully everything is going to be in frame, and you might see like my desk mess of all my Christmas stuff. I have my little crap set up. So, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is the cover. So we want to make sure that the paper is oriented in the right way and that you don't accidentally put one upside down like this. So make sure they're both facing up. And I'm just going to glue these together or adhere. I'm using tape, obviously. We went over that. So I'm just going to get a really good all the way up to the edge. See, my tape gun still works. It's just a pain in the butt. I know it's going to run out on this, and I'm going to have to stop and refill it, and it's going to be super annoying. But that's life. Okay. Or I might just do one of the notebook covers on camera, and then... Oh, it's so going to run out. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to put that down. Now, like I said, I am going to double check like a crazy person 8 million times. That is up. This is up. Now, unless you cut your paper with your cutting machine, it's going to be slightly off. They're not going to be exactly the same unless you cut 2 pieces of paper at one time. I'm way too scared to do that. But have no fear. We can trim if there's any mistakes. So I'm just going to try to get it as good, line it up as well as I can. Oh my gosh, my cat, are you serious? So I'm going to line it up as well as I can and just try to get it even. Like I said, you're not ever going to be able to cut 2 pieces of paper the exact same size. It's just not going to happen. So just let that go. Okay, I'm going to kind of smooth it down, and I'm going to see what it looks like from the front. It's not that bad. There's a little bit here that's uneven, but honestly, that is going to be on the back. If it bothers you, you can trim it off. This is how I do it. I put my ruler, so I have this super long ruler, and it's not uneven all the way, so I get to... Okay, I'm going to press it down really well, and I'm not going to move the ruler until I know the piece of paper that I want gone is gone. So I'm just going to take my craft knife, see how it kind of shrivels off there, and see there it was okay, but I am going to make sure it comes off before I move my ruler, because if it was still on, I would never get it lined up the same again. So always make sure that all your paper is gone before you move your ruler. So we'll take a look at that, and it looks super even. It's good there. And I think I did a pretty good job. I'm not gonna, it's a little bit, you can see there, it's a little bit uneven, but I'm not even gonna stress. I think that lined up really well for me. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and cut my corners so that I don't forget. On my big traveler's notebook, like this guy, holy crap, I have this thing chonked out so bad. So on this one, I used the 1/2 inch, sorry. On that one, I used a 1/2 inch corner. On these little ones, I use the 1/4 inch corner, but it's your life. Do whatever you want. Do what you like. So I'm gonna chomp all my little corners so that I don't forget, and I'm gonna set that to the side. Cover, done, boom. Actually, we need to score it, but I'm just gonna wait and actually score these at the same time. Okay, so I should be done with my ruler. I might need it to trim if my notebooks don't come out, so I'm going to put this away for the moment. And I'm going to bust out my scoreboard. So on the cover, I think I wrote on my little thing. Okay, it is you're going to score at 3 5/8, 4 1/8, and 4 5/8. And this is just how I score. If it bothers you, I'm sorry. I put mine at an angle like this. To me, it's just easier. So I am going to score 3 5/8. So we have 3. So 3 1/2 is 4/8, right? So on my scoreboard, I have the Martha Stewart one. 3 5/8 is just past that 3 1/2 line. It's the one that's a little tiny blue line. So 3 5/8, I just want to make sure. Yep, 3 5/8. So I'm going to score that. And then I'm going to score at 4 1/8. So 4 inches here. So the next little blue line is 4 1/8. So make sure it's scored all the way down. And then I'm going to score at 4 5/8. So there's 4 1/2. And the next little blue line is 4 5/8. Otherwise, you'll just have to count your little eighths. I don't know how it is on the, oops, that one went wonky. I don't know how it is on the We Are Memory Keeper scoreboard because I don't have that scoreboard, obviously. I'm going to pull it up close because I keep going off kilter a little bit. So I'm sorry if I'm off of frame for this part, but I want it to be right for you guys. Okay, so that's my cover scored. We're going to laminate that in 2 seconds. Now the folder. So the folder, mine is just a geometric pattern. So it doesn't matter where I score it. But a couple of things about folders I will tell you is that the score line, you're going to score it in the middle, which half of 7 is 3 1/2 inches, okay? So you want to make sure that your paper is oriented the right way. So when you score in the middle, this is going to be up and down, okay? But on my paper, it obviously doesn't matter. But if you had a pattern, I like to use just geometric repeating patterns. Because if you use something like this, the folder part, so like say this was my folder and I folded it in half. Well, when I turn it to do my pockets, this is going to come up to the inside. And so it'll be upside down when you look at it, if that makes sense. So I don't tend to use patterns that only go one way on folders. I try to pick either a solid color or something that doesn't matter which way the paper goes. And another thing with folders, if you score at 3 1/2, you might have some extra. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you what I mean. But sometimes I will just fold mine in half because then it doesn't matter how you measured, the middle is going to be in the middle, if that makes sense. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you to score at 3 1/2. Oh, I almost went through the paper there. So 3 1/2. See, I scored too hard. But it's going to be fine because that's going to be in the middle and it's going to be fine. Just don't stress it. And then I'm going to score at 4 1/2. So I'm turning one turn. So I'm turning one time. Okay. So, but it's still a 7-inch side because this was a square piece of paper. But I'm going to score at 4 5/8. So the best way to think about this, if you're turning the right way, is that this score line should intersect your other score line. Why does it keep going off? That is probably because I'm on camera and everything goes wrong when you're on camera. So 4 5/8, you want to intersect that other middle score line you have. So what you have should look like this. These are the score lines. Okay, basically, now what I'm just going to do is burnish my scores, my folds, both ways. And see, now this one I did pretty well, but see, there is a little bit of overhang, and it's not going to bother me. Once it's in there, it's going to be fine. But if you wanted it to be perfect, you would fold it instead of scoring it there in the middle. Because you're never going to cut anything exactly perfectly, unless you cut it with your die cutting machine, which I have done that before, but it just takes way too long. So now, this is going to be the folder part. This is going to be the pockets, but it's obviously not going to fold. It's going to be too bulky. We need to remove this here. So you're going to fold it in half, and on the side that it's folded, not the open side, the side that it's folded, you want to remove just a little bit of paper here. Now, some people use their paper trimmers. Some people use their rulers. You could use a ruler for sure. I'm just trying to grab mine again to show you that you could do it like this and use a thing And that would give you probably more of a straight line, but I just don't live my life that picky. Like, I don't stress about everything being completely perfect. So I just use my scissors. These are just literally Fiskars school scissors. Every year after school starts, I go to Target and I pick up some of these scissors on clearance. These are the ones I got this year, but they're just handy to have around. Now I do have little fancy scissors that are good and precise, but these are pretty much my everyday scissors. So you're going to want to cut at an angle right to that score line. If you go above the score line, there's going to be a little dent, which that's okay. It gives a place for the strap of the traveler's notebook to go into, but you just want to cut off a sliver. Now you can measure, you can sit here and do it on your scoreboard, like whatever. I just cut off a little piece. So you don't need much at all, and when I open it, you'll be able to see. So I cut right to that score line, and see, it's perfect. I have nothing there that came off or chipped. And that's really simple folder, guys. So I think my illuminator turned off. I'm going to turn it back on and let it warm up. So that's really the size of the little triangle that comes out. Now you can measure it. I will link some tutorials down below. There's a few that I have used, but I like these. This folder is just the easiest way to go. So now all we need is to place some tape from the score line down to the bottom on the two edges, not where we cut out the triangle, but on the two edges. Because obviously this is going to be the pocket, so we don't want to glue the whole thing down. See, just like that. Boom, done. So easy. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to fold it up. And I think I have some tape that kind of came out there. I'm just going to get that off. So if I'm off frame, sorry. So I'm just removing any tape. And we're going to laminate this, so I guess you don't have to laminate it if you don't want to, but I'm going to laminate mine. Alright, and on this guy, we need to laminate this. So basically, how I do mine, you could use one laminating sheet and try to get these in there together. That makes me super nervous that it's going to mess up. I would rather spend an extra 10 or 15 cents on an extra laminating sheet than mess up my designer paper that I have taken the time to cut and score and whatever. And look at this, I forgot to chomp the edges again. So we are going to chomp the edges of the folder at a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch on all my sides. I have some little tape there. Get off there, tape. I am going to score all my edges. And I also like to score this inner part because I feel like it gives the strap a little place to go. So I do a little score. This one where the pockets are is going to be a bulky, so that's going to be the hardest one to punch. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. And like I said, I just use 2 separate sheets for this because I feel like it comes out better. So I'm going to take my Scotch laminating sheets. And like I said, you could totally do this with 1 sheet of paper, and maybe I should, just for the sake of video, try to get this to go through, but I'm always afraid it's not gonna line up. But usually what I do is I make 2 of these at a time. So I will send 2 covers through. I did that last time and it was fine, but if you've never made one of these before, you're definitely going to want to practice. So if this is your first time making a traveler's notebook, I highly, highly recommend don't use your designer paper. Use some just regular scrapbook paper, some regular cardstock, you know, the packs at Michael's or some spare that you have laying around, and do a practice run because you will mess up the first time. Probably. You're going to mess up. So just try to get the hang of it with using your regular paper first. And I guess just to be conservative, I'm going to send these through together. If you're using nice quality laminating sheets, it shouldn't be a problem. But if you're using the cheap ones, which I have the cheap ones too, and I do use them for some things. But for this, I want it to come out nice. But I will go ahead and send these through together. And actually, if I bring my laminating sheet over, I can kind of, my laminating machine over, you can maybe see some of this. My laminating sheet loads from the front. So let me get everything out of the way here. So we'll try to line this up. Now if you line it up correctly, you only have to cut on one side of it. So let's just leave a very small margin there. And this one I'm going to put in the middle because I don't want it to mess up. So I'm going to make sure it's flat. And I find when I do something like this, I will take a folder or another piece of cardstock that I have handy to kind of place it into the laminating machine evenly. Okay, so there it's getting started, but this way it doesn't fall down and I have time to maneuver this little sheet. But like I said, mostly I do 2 covers, so I would be doing 2 covers like this, and this is why I accidentally almost got that piece of paper in there. So this is looking great so far, but for these folders actually fit perfect in this size. So this is a 5x7 thermal pouch, and if you want to do just 1 folder in there, that's usually what I do. So I'll put 2 covers to a sheet of paper and then do each folder in their own 5x7, but you can kind of experiment around with that and see what you want to do. Looks great. There's no bubbles. I definitely recommend the Scotch laminating sheets. And this is, I can't remember which laminating machine this is, but it has the wide slot. So I think it goes up to 13 inches or something this way. So I like it because I can do a 12-inch piece of paper. And you have to buy special sheets for that, obviously. But I have done it and it's worth it. So I'm just going to send it through the other way and make sure I'm sealing. See right here, it's not really sealed that well. And once I trim these down, I can also send them through again. But I think this should do it. So cute. Those little birds just get me. They're so cute. All right. So here we have it. I'm just going to take everything out and look and see how well it is laminated and sealed. And to me it looks pretty good. Like the cover looks good especially, but I think I'm going to send it through one more time. Like right here on the folder, it's not great. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. So I'm just going to cut, obviously we're going to go through and trim these with the paper trimmer. But see there, I don't have a really good seal right there. So I'm going to send just the folder back through. Get rid of my scraps. Okay. Actually, I'm going to send this back through because now that I'm looking at it, I see here it's not sealed that great. And, you know, it's worth the extra time to make sure it's perfect, especially if you're giving it as a gift. So here comes my little folder. And I'm actually going to move this laminating machine back, I do believe. And I only use the 3 milliliter paper. I find the 5 milliliter makes it too hard to fold, too hard to cut. But I do use the 5 milliliter setting on my machine, but I only use the 3 millimeter paper. So I'm sending that through again. I mean, you can send it through as many times as you like. I'm going to say this, yeah, so this is 3 millimeters. So we're going to need, the next thing we're going to need is our paper trimmer and then our ruler and our craft knife again. Now once it's laminated, you could just cut everything with your craft knife and a ruler, but I'm going to use my paper trimmer. I'm going to move this out of the way. And let's see here. What do I do with my paper trimmer? Pardon me. Okay. Now I'm just going to line everything up. The top will not really need to be cut that much, except for if I would have got it in there straight, it wouldn't need it, but I need to cut just a little bit off. If you hear my cat, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut, and it's just a tiny sliver. I don't even know if you can see how tiny that sliver is. And I'm going to go cut my sides. If I'm off frame for this part, I'm sorry. You'll just have to see where your bubble ends. And actually this, I might send it through one. Actually, it does look sealed. I might send this through one more time. The cat you hear is my good cat, not the kitten. This is Bootsy, and she's pretty chill. She's really happy because we actually just turned the heat on for the first time, and she likes to lay by the heat and just be warm. I'm actually going to turn it off. It got down to like 36 degrees, and I slept with my windows slightly cracked. I'm not even gonna lie. I love the cool weather. Okay, so I ran that through one more time, and I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get. So just go with it. Perfect. Okay, so here I'm going to score as close as I can, trim as close as I can around all the edges. And then I want to get rid of my corners. Now I have two corner chompers. One is regular, and this one broke on me, but it was after years of use, so I'm not even that mad. But since this one's already broken, it's the one that I use for chomping my laminated paper, if that makes sense. I find the 1/4 inch side works, but the 1/2 inch side doesn't work to go through laminating paper. It's really weird, but that's why I use my one that is already broken. So let's go ahead while we have our trimmer out and trim the folder down. The folder is kind of hard because you have to open the pockets, and that's probably the hardest part of the whole thing, is opening the pockets and then punching the holes for the elastic. Those are the hardest things for making traveler's notebooks, but this is coming together pretty quickly. As you can see, this video is in real time, obviously. And there I have it. I'm gonna go ahead again. I don't know why I put my corner chomper away. And I'm gonna corner chomp my corners here just so nobody gets poked. If I'm off frame for this, sorry. Obviously everyone knows how to chomp corners. I mean, hopefully everyone does. If not, I'm sure you can look at tutorials that are probably better than this. Now, I go back and rescore these lines once it's laminated. So, obviously, it's now in laminate, so I'm done with tape. I'm going to put that away. Obviously, once it's in laminate, you're not going to be able to be on the same lines because you have an 1/8 or a 16th inch or so of laminate there. So I just try to find a groove that it will work in, and I only laminate the paper part of this. I only score the paper part of this. I try not to go all the way up to where the laminate is. So I stop at the edge of the paper, if that makes sense. And this one, just make sure you're in a groove and score it again. Now this middle one you don't even have to do because I kind of don't fold that one, but the recipient might want to fold it into more of a round, and I'll show you what I mean. So I kind of just re-score those, only the paper, just to kind of make it easier to fold. And now I can't find the one that I made. Here it is. So what I mean by that is I keep this square. This line, this score line, you can see it scored there. I use it mostly as a guide to punch my center hole. You can like fold that or whatever, but I like the square on this size. I like the square edges, so I'm only gonna fold the bottom and the top line. I'm not gonna fold that middle line. So you can kind of get it where you need it to be and then fold it. All right, and so that, my friends, is the cover to the folder. We're done with the scoreboard. We're done with the laminating. Well, we're also done with the laminating. We're done with the scoreboard. We're done with the paper trimmer. So this is what you're going to be left with. Super cute cover. Now the folder. This is the hard part because what you need to do is open these pockets. There's a little piece of piece that got on there. Okay, so what we need to do now is open these pockets, and we have to take a razor and cut that laminate to where we can actually tuck stuff in there, and it's hard. So, as I mentioned before, you might seriously want to try and practice a folder with a piece of paper that you don't care about, because it is a fine line of opening the paper and between opening the paper and ripping the whole thing front to back. So, I have done this many, many times. And so I am experienced. I feel comfortable doing it, but you might want to practice a time or two before you destroy your beautiful paper. Now there's a couple ways you can do this, but it's kind of hard to see where you need to stop. So what I do is, you could do it like this. You could cover this up and say whatever, but then how do you know where to stop and start? So I do mine like this. So I can see where that paper stops and starts, and you really don't need that much room. You want to cut it close, but leave just a little bit. Okay, so that looks good. So now I can see where the folder stops, and I know I need to cut from here. Now you don't want to cut the laminate, you only want to cut to the end of the paper, which makes it kind of hard. So you want to go to the end of the folder, maybe just a little bit over, so that when we cut this side, it'll be fine. So I just want to make sure that my paper opened, and it did. See, now that part is open. Now on this one, you could freehand it, but this one is kind of easier to see where you need to stop and start. So you want to go over just enough to where you can go back down this little angled piece, and you're going to cut that open. And you can kind of hear that it's cutting open, but it's not going through the whole thing. Okay, so you want to make sure that you don't cut through the whole thing, which I have done when I was just starting out. Obviously, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You have to practice a few times. So I used to cut it all the time. So now I'm going to go back. I'm hoping all of this makes sense, but like I said, you just kind of have to get in there and do it and practice. Now I can already tell this little corner didn't open, but that's okay, because I'm just going to make sure this part opened, this part opened, and I'm going to take my craft knife and go in there and just cut what tiny little bit wasn't open there. See, there we go. Now you're going to see this kind of feels weird. Now what we want to do is we want to send this back through the laminator to kind of seal this little piece we just opened. And obviously it's still going to be kind of blank paper, but you'll see what I mean. It's, but be careful, because obviously if you send this through like this, these pockets are going to get caught up in your laminator, and it's going to jam and ruin your laminator. So you want to put it face down with the pockets facing towards the entrance of your laminator where you put stuff in, if that makes sense at all. So if you do it like I do mine face down, though. You could do it like this, I guess it would work, but I put mine face down with the pockets up here, and that's just how I do it. I guess I've never tried doing it that way, but I'm just going to do it like this. But like I said, the most important thing is to make sure that your pockets aren't going to be jamming up your laminator. So I'm going to do mine like this. So you're just going to send that through really quick. Super cute. I love Snow and Cocoa. It's so cute. I used to be such a traditionalist when it came to Christmas colors, but Snow and Cocoa is what really just brought me over to the kind of pastel and non-traditional Christmas side. And see, that's much better. It kind of laminates the open part to where it's not gonna stick or whatever. It's not gonna get hit. All right, done with the laminator, turning it off. So now we can just fold our folder, burnish it down. I don't have my... Okay, so that's that. Now we have the covers of the notebooks, which is kind of tricky. And like I said, you might want to practice on paper that you do not care about, because It is definitely tricky. Now, if I run out of tape, I'm only going to do 1 or 2 of these. These are the papers I picked. Actually, I wanted this one to be my folder, but I accidentally cut it. Whatever, all good. Super cute. I just try to get patterns, you know, that kind of go well with the cover, and I don't know. I love Snow and Cocoa. I love this whole entire line. So, for the notebooks, all of mine, actually this one I need to make sure goes the right way, but since these are just, you know, stripes and geographic patterns, it doesn't matter which way is up. I'm going to give it a good amount of tape, and I want to get as close to that edge as I possibly can, but not go over. I really like to get the middle where that spine is going to be, so kind of over tape that part. Because this we're not laminating. The cover and the folder, we laminated it, so you didn't have to go crazy on the adhesive, but this is all we're getting here. Now, I like to lay my paper down. Like I said, it doesn't matter which way this paper goes. Lay my paper down, open up my notebook, and I like to do the front first. So I don't line it all the way up to the edge. I try to give it, that's why I cut my paper just like an 1/8 or a 1/16 inch over. Because you can always trim it off, but you can't add paper back. And to have to trim all of these pages of this notebook is going to be annoying. Now here I got it all the way to the bottom, and it's super close. But I think we got it. I'm not going to have to trim. So once that's down, I kind of just fold it down. And then I'm going to raise this a little bit. Now you can also, like I said, you're just going to have to play around with it. But I really try to get that spine kind of bent there. And then I flip mine over so that I can see the top. Is it going to line up? I can kind of manipulate it to where I want it to go and make sure that it's all going to be covered. Now see here, I do have a little bit extra, but like I said, I'd rather have extra than not enough. Sometimes on the front one, if you go too close to this edge, you're going to see the pages of your notebook. So this one came out really, really well. I'm really happy with that. But I do have a little bit extra on this side. So I'm just going to go ahead. But like I said, I cut my paper a little bit over because I think it's easier to trim a little piece like this than to have to trim the cover of the notebook because you didn't cover it all the way. And my paper came off. I can see that it's completely came off, so I can move my ruler. And then once I corner chomp, I am going to be good to go. So you're just going to repeat that process. I will go ahead and do these on camera. Actually, this one, I think I'm going to have to use, I might use the 1/2 inch. I think that's what they use on these notebooks, the 1/2 inch corner chomp. So that I don't, let's see what it's like with the 1/2 inch. That was still a 1/4 inch. Silly. Okay, so I'm going to go in with the 1/2 inch just to make it to where the paper is closer to the notebook cover. That one didn't chomp, but it's okay. We made it. It didn't over chomp, if that makes sense. Kind of messed that one up, but we're good. All right, so that is the end product. First notebook cover done. Now let's see if we can do it again the same way and not have any mistakes. And I think my tape is going to make it, as long as I don't go nuts on the tape. I do have a little sticky thumb tape runner that I can use if this runs out, so I don't have to refill this thing on camera because there probably cuss words will be said. That looks good to me, and it looks like I'm going to have just enough tape to finish this project. So this one is my trees. So I want to make sure my paper is oriented correctly, and that's also another reason why I start with the front of my notebook, so I can know, okay, this is the top of the page. And again, I'm just going to try to line it up as best I can. If I get my head in camera, just sorry. So on the top, I want it to be right there. I want to have just a little bit of overhang on the cover so that when it closes, it looks good. All right, so let's see how we did. We have the first cover down. Look, no cover is showing. Perfect. All right. Now you can kind of bend your paper up like this, but I think it's easier just to use a table as a surface and bend my spine like this. If you don't bend your spine and you just kind of flip your thing over, it might not open and close correctly. So I like to bend my spine like that. Now I know my spine is completely covered, but then to me, I'm right-handed, and this is just easier for me to see that I'm not going to miss any part of the top. I can kind of manipulate it and pull it down if I think it's going to have any overhang, and it closes perfectly. Now again, I have a little bit of paper here, but I think it's easier to have extra than not enough, which is why when I cut my paper to 4.5 inches tall, but then 6 3/4, I go just over that 6 3/4 by 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. Now you can see that pulled completely off, and it looks good. We're good to go. So let's go ahead and chomp the corners. And again, I'm going to use the 1/2 inch side just because the 1/4 inch is leaving a little paper, and I don't want it to get folded down, if that makes sense. I don't want the corners to get wonky. So I'm just going to use the 1/2 inch corner rounder on these notebooks. Now you can use the... Alright guys, my camera cut off there, and the only thing it didn't show me was me covering the other 2 notebooks. So I'm just going to kind of pick up where it would be after covering the 2 notebooks. You saw me do the first one, so just repeat that on your other 2. I don't have time to start this all over. I'm trying to go to Tuesday morning and get all the Merry Days stuff. So I'm a crazy lady, and I called all my Tuesday mornings that are around me. I have about 5 that I go to. And I called them to see which day they get their truck. So basically I'm hitting them on the day after their truck comes. So that's dedication. But I have some of the Merry Days, but I need more of the paper and a lot of the puffy stickers. And then I'm not going to buy anything for the rest of the year. But I digress. So now we have our cover done, folder done, and 3 notebooks. And I did show you one on film, so just do that 3 times, and I'll also link another tutorial in case you want to watch that as well. And now it's time to punch our holes. So basically what I want to do, and I will show you the one I have done, we want to punch our holes. So I do them just on the inside of the score lines and on the middle score line. So we need to punch 7 holes. So I already have my little, this thing, crocodile, like, what is this? Eyelet setter thing, but I'm using the smaller hole. Okay, so I'm using the smaller hole, and I already have it set to where I want it here. You want the hole to be just on the paper. You don't want to cut into the laminate. And like I said, I'm going to do just on the inside of the left score line, just on the inside of the right score line, and right on the middle of the middle score line. So right on the line of that middle one. And oops, I got it kind of wonky, but that's okay. Not gonna matter. I don't think anyone's gonna look at the spine and be, oh my god, it's off just a little. Don't stress. It does not have to be perfect to be functional and beautiful. Don't stress about little things like that. Okay, so there's those holes done. Now I pretty much have my crocodile set to where I want it as well. Since we didn't bend the score line, it's going to be a little bit harder to see. So I kind of just do a test and punch my thing down and adjust it before I punch the hole. But that looks like it's on the middle to me. And I just eyeball it. I don't sit there and measure the halfway point. You totally can if that's going to bother you, but that does not bother me one little bit. Okay, so now the hard part is kind of stringing it. Now I've done this a few times, so it just comes second nature to me. I'll try to link another tutorial about doing that. For the little thing that goes across this way, you want it to be enough to where you have enough to tie. To me that looks like plenty. I'm sure people have measured this and can tell you exactly how much string you need, but I don't live my life like that. I just kind of use string, whatever. I might waste a little bit. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to take our elastic and we're going to go from the inside through the middle one. And now our string is on the outside, okay? So then we're gonna go into that left top hole, okay? We're gonna go in through the left top hole, and then I'm gonna go down with the string is now on the inside. You want your string to be all on the inside except for the little bit I'll show you at the end what goes on the outside. So I went through my left hole. I can already tell this is not gonna be enough string. I'm gonna pull off just a little bit more. You basically need to go up and down, and then enough to tie it off. So I could probably cut it right there and it would be fine, but let's just a little bit more. And this kind of takes, this is going to take a minute. It's a little bit confusing until you figure it out. Now I'm going to come from the outside and go into the middle bottom hole, okay? Into the middle bottom hole. And now this is the hardest one because you have to go through a hole that already has string in it. So you're going to go through that middle top hole from the inside to the outside. Now your string's on the outside. You're going to go back into the top right hole, down to the bottom right hole, and another hard part where you're going to want to come back in to the middle bottom hole that already has a string in it. Boom, done. And that's just a little bit too long. So I'm going to pull. You want it to be tight enough to hold your things in, but not so tight that it's going to gather, if that makes any sense. So that looks good to me. Now I'm going to tie this. Actually, it's probably easier to do the middle before we tie that off. So you just want to go in, stick both of them in there. Okay, then I kind of pull them up through here. I do a test on the outside to see if I'm going to have enough. That seems about, actually I might need just a little more slack. So I'm going to pull it out just a tad bit, just a little bit. Because I want it to close, but see now that's not tight enough. So I'm going to bring it in just a little bit. You want it to close around there, but not indent your lamination, if that makes sense. So I'm going to pull it in just a little bit. And actually what I'll do is I'll tie one single knot just so that it doesn't move, if that makes sense. So I'm going to tie one little single knot there and then test. So that seems about right. It's coming in just a little bit. So maybe you just pull it up just a little bit more. Untie that tie. So let's see how we do now. Okay, that's perfect. It's not indenting the lamination at all, and it's still going to be tight enough even when we put our notebooks in there. It's going to be fine. So what I do is I leave that knot there, and then I tie another knot, but I don't pull it down yet because I want the knot to squeeze itself. I don't want to pull any more string through there. So I pull my knot up through there like that, and then I pull it from the sides to tighten the knot, if that makes sense. So instead of just tightening the knot, which is going to close my hole a little bit, I pull the whole knot out and pull on all four strings. See, I'm pulling on the two ends that are coming out and the actual strings, and that tightens my knot. When I pull it back through here, it's going to be perfect. Perfection. Okay, so now we're going to tie this string here, which is going to give us our fourth strap. I usually use this fourth strap for, say, the folder so my little strings are in a notebook. And these you can just pull on themselves. And see, I have a few extra inches, but I buy in bulk. I pick these up either off of Amazon or from Joann and use a 60 off coupon. And on these ones, I trim just a little bit. I try to leave a little bit on there, so if you ever have to redo it, you have enough to untie and tie back. So that's it, guys. So basically, now we're just going to fill this up, and you can use the adhesive pockets. I might put one pocket in here, but we have a folder, but let me just show you. These are the little dollar spot. I wasn't able to pick up any this year, actually, and so I'm having to go out on my stash of what I had last year, so I think I'm just going to put one. I'm sure you can buy them elsewhere. If anyone knows where, let me know. I'm sure you can get them on Amazon. Now, these barely fit in these little ones, so you just have to be careful. I'm not going to super stress about getting it exactly even. I guess you can. Let's see, that one didn't come out super even. But I'm afraid if I take it off, it won't be tacky enough. It's still going to be functional. It's fine. Just learn to let it go. Let it go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. That would be so boring, wouldn't it? Okay, so I'm going to put, I want this one on the third one. To me, this is the cutest one. I'm going to put it on the front. Flap. This one is the one that has a tie on it, so I'm going to use that for the folder. You do whatever you want, though. You can set yours up however you like. Maybe when I have more time, I'll do a tutorial for a dashboard for this. And there we go. And just so they know there's a pocket, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my scraps. So where is my paper pad? I'm going to put a tag in there. So let's make some tags. I have these little scraps. Let me find my little tag board. Is this my tag board? Pardon the noise. So this is my tag punch board. So I'm just going to cut these a little bit. Let's make some tags. I'm going to just cut these. What are these? Are like 5 inches. So let's go 2.5 or so. Whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just making some little tags out of your scraps. Boom. Now, I haven't used this in a hot minute. So I'm going to figure out how to use my tag punch board again. I haven't used it in a hot minute. So let's see, if I want it to be, let's just pick E. Actually, that's not enough. Let's pick G. G for Gail. So I'm going to cut off there at G. I'm sure you can look up a tutorial on how to use this better. I'm going to flip it over, go back to the same G line, and cut off there. And then use my little, so this is 2.5. You can measure, or you can just eyeball that middle punch. Like I said, I don't stress too much on that kind of stuff. So I'm going to pick back G. If you want to switch it up, you could use a different one. Flip it over. G. Punch the hole. This is 2.5, roughly. You can kind of even it up, just put it in the middle. Alternatively, you could, if you don't have a tag punch board, I get obsessed with finding those things though, and then I gotta have them all. Okay, so alternatively, you could just cut a corner off at random and use this as a template for your other cut. So put that right there. It's just like inverted, so you're cutting at the same angle. And do that. Perfect. And then you can just kind of eyeball your middle. Use your little thing here. Eyeball it. Boom. Done. I'll do another one like that so you can see. Always put your blade back. So let's say I don't want to cut off too much of that bird. So on this one, I'm just going to do a small snip. Invert that so that the white piece is showing on this side. Obviously, you're lining up your 90-degree angles. This little snip is so small that I'm having a hard time. So cut the same way there, and I might use the big hole on this. Boom. Tags. So this way the recipient will just know that there's, I'll put these in my other one that I'm going to make. This way the recipient will know that there's a pocket there that they can use. Or you could put little bits from the paper collection. You could make a little bookmark. I mean, you can make page markers for these too, but this is just going to be an extra goodie for a swap. So I'm not going to go crazy. And that's it, guys. So we just have a very simple little traveler's notebook. Here's the finished product. So we have the pocket there. And if you have enough pockets, you could put a pocket here as well. But I think with one pocket there and 2 pockets in the folder, we're good to go. So there's the first notebook. We have a folder. We have another notebook and another notebook. And on another day, I'll make a page marker and a dashboard and show you how to do that. So there is my Snow and Cocoa mini traveler's notebook. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. And I will link another tutorial from kind of where I learned how to do this. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I know this is going to be a long one, so thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help me out. I'm kind of a new. I'm just getting started. It's slow going, but I'm having so much fun with it, and I'm just going to keep doing it. I hope you're enjoying everything. If you have any requests, anything you want to see me do, just let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Have a great weekend.